Good evening, and welcome to Third Church of Christ Scientist. Let's begin the meeting with singing hymn number 349, 349. I'll read the third verse. We walk in freedom and in peace, thy holy purpose to fulfill, and thou dost ever point the path for loving servants of thy will. Number 349. I'll read from the Bible and from Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy. The subject of this evening's readings is persistence. The Bible. 2 Timothy. Continue thou in the things which thou hast learned and hast been assured of, knowing of whom thou hast learned them. Nehemiah. The words of Nehemiah, the son of Hakaliah. Hanani, one of my brethren, came, he and certain men of Judah, and I asked them concerning the Jews that had escaped, which were left of the captivity, and concerning Jerusalem. And they said unto me, the remnant that are left of the captivity there in the province are in great affliction and reproach. The wall of Jerusalem also is broken down, and the gates thereof are burned with fire. And it came to pass, when I heard these words, that I sat down and wept and mourned certain days, and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven, and said, I beseech thee, O Lord God of heaven, the great and terrible God, that keepeth covenant and mercy for them that love him and observe his commandments, let thine ear now be attentive, and thine eyes open, that thou mayest hear the prayer of thy servant, which I pray before thee now, day and night, for the children of Israel, thy servants. Now these are thy servants and thy people, whom thou hast redeemed by thy great power and by thy strong hand. O Lord, I beseech thee, let now thine ear be attentive to the prayer of thy servant and to the prayer of thy servants who desire to fear thy name. And prosper, I pray thee, thy servant this day, and grant him mercy in the sight of this man, for I was the king's cupbearer. And it came to pass in the month Nisan, in the 20th year of Artaxerxes the king, that wine was set before him. And I took up the wine and gave it unto the king. Now I had not been beforetime sad in his presence. Wherefore the king said unto me, Why is thy countenance sad, seeing thou art not sick? This is nothing else but sorrow of heart. Then I was very sore afraid, and said unto the king, Let the king live forever. Why should not my countenance be sad, when the city, the place of my fathers' sepulchres, lieth waste, and the gates thereof are consumed with fire? Then the king said unto me, For what dost thou make request? So I prayed to the God of heaven. And I said unto the king, If it please the king, and if thy servant have found favor in thy sight, that thou wouldest send me unto Judah, unto the city of my father's sepulchres, that I may build it. And the king said unto me, the queen also sitting by him, For how long shall thy journey be? And when wilt thou return? So it pleased the king to send me, and I set him a time. Moreover I said unto the king, If it please the king, let letters be given me to the governors beyond the river, that they may convey me over till I come unto Judah. And a letter unto Asaph, the keeper of the king's forest, that he may give me timber to make beams for the gates of the palace, which appertained to the house, and for the wall of the city, and for the house that I shall enter into. And the king granted me, according to the good hand of my God upon me. Then I came to the governors beyond the river, and gave them the king's letters. Now the king had sent captains of the army and horsemen with me. When Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the servant, the Ammonite, heard of it, it grieved them exceedingly that there was come a man to seek the welfare of the children of Israel. And the rulers knew not whither I went or what I did, neither had I as yet told it to the Jews, nor to the priests, nor to the nobles, nor to the rulers, nor to the rest that did the work. Then said I unto them, Ye see the distress that we are in, how Jerusalem lieth waste, and the gates thereof are burned with fire. Come, and let us build up the wall of Jerusalem, that we be no more a reproach. Then I told them of the hand of my God, which was good upon me, as also the king's words that he had spoken unto me. And they said, Let us rise up and build. So they strengthened their hands for this good work. But when Sanballat the Horonite, and Tobiah the servant, the Ammonite, and Geshem the Arabian, heard it, they laughed us to scorn, and despised us, and said, What is this thing that ye do? Will ye rebel against the king? Then answered I them, and said unto them, The God of heaven, he will prosper us. Therefore we his servants will arise and build. But ye have no portion, nor right, nor memorial in Jerusalem. But it came to pass that when Sanballat heard that we builded the wall, he was wroth, and took great indignation, and mocked the Jews. And he spake before his brethren and the army of Samaria, and said, What do these feeble Jews? Will they fortify themselves? Will they sacrifice? Will they make an end in a day? Will they revive the stones out of the heaps of the rubbish which are burned? But it came to pass that when Sanballat and Tobiah and the Arabians and the Ammonites and the Ashdodites heard that the walls of Jerusalem were made up and that the breaches began to be stopped, then they were very wroth, and conspired all of them together to come and to fight against Jerusalem and to hinder it. Nevertheless, we made our prayer unto our God, and set a watch against them day and night because of them. And our adversaries said, they shall not know neither see, till we come in the midst among them, and slay them, and cause the work to cease. Therefore set I in the lower places behind the wall, and on the higher places I even set the people after their families with their swords, their spears, and their bows. And I looked, and rose up, and said unto the nobles, and to the rulers, and to the rest of the people, Be not ye afraid of them. Remember the Lord, which is great and terrible, and fight for your brethren, your sons and your daughters, your wives and your houses. And it came to pass, when our enemies heard that it was known unto us, and God had brought their counsel to naught, that we returned, all of us, to the wall, every one unto his work. And it came to pass from that time forth, that the half of my servants wrought in the work, and the other half of them held both the spears, the shields, and the bows, and the habergeons. And the rulers were behind all the house of Judah. They which builded on the wall, and they that bare burdens, with those that laded, every one with one of his hands wrought in the work, and with the other hand held a weapon. Now it came to pass, when Sanballat and Tobiah and Geshem the Arabian and the rest of our enemies heard that I had builded the wall, and that there was no breach left therein, though at that time I had not set up the doors upon the gates, that Sanballat and Geshem sent unto me, saying, Come, let us meet together in some one of the villages in the plain of Ono. But they sought to do me mischief. And I sent messengers unto them, saying, I am doing a great work, so that I cannot come down. Why should the work cease, whilst I leave it and come down to you? Yet they sent unto me 4 times after this sort, and I answered them after the same manner. Then sent Sanballat his servant unto me in like manner the 5th time, with an open letter in his hand, wherein was written, It is reported among the heathen, and Gashmu saith it, that thou and the Jews think to rebel, for which cause thou buildest the wall, that thou mayest be their king according to these words. Then I sent unto him, saying, There are no such things done as thou sayest, but thou feignest them out of thine own heart. So the wall was finished in the 25th day of the month Elul, in 52 days. And it came to pass that when all our enemies heard thereof, and all the heathen that were about us saw these things, they were much cast down in their own eyes, for they perceived that this work was wrought of our God. Mark. And Jesus began to say, Take heed lest any man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And when ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, be ye not troubled, for such things must need be, but the end shall not be yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be earthquakes in divers places, and there shall be famines and troubles. These are the beginnings of sorrows. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. And then, if any man shall say to you, Lo, here is Christ, or Lo, he is there, believe him not. For false Christs and false prophets shall rise, and shall show signs and wonders, to seduce, if it were possible, even the elect. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. But of that day and that hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels which are in heaven, neither the Son, but the Father. Take ye heed, watch and pray, for ye know not when the time is. For the Son of Man is as a man taking a far journey, who left his house and gave authority to his servants and to every man his work, and commanded the porter to watch. Watch ye therefore, for ye know not when the master of the house cometh, at even or at midnight, or at the cock crowing, or in the morning, lest coming suddenly he find you sleeping. And what I say unto you, I say unto all, watch. Colossians. Continue in prayer, and watch in the same with thanksgiving. I'll now read correlative passages from the Christian Science textbook, Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures, by Mary Baker Eddy. Moral courage is the lion of the tribe of Judah, the king of the mental realm. Free and fearless it roams in the forest. Undisturbed it lies in the open field, or rests in green pastures beside the still waters. In the figurative transmission from the divine thought to the human, diligence, promptness, and perseverance are likened to the cattle upon 1,000 hills. They carry the baggage of stern resolve and keep pace with highest purpose. By lifting thought above error or disease and contending persistently for truth, you destroy error. Whoever would demonstrate the healing of Christian Science must abide strictly by its rules, heed every statement, and advance from the rudiments laid down. There is nothing difficult nor toilsome in this task when the way is pointed out, but self-denial, sincerity, Christianity, and persistence alone win the prize, as they usually do in every department of life. Jesus walked on the waves, fed the multitude, healed the sick, and raised the dead in direct opposition to material laws. His acts were the demonstration of science, overcoming the false claims of material sense or law. Science shows that material, conflicting mortal opinions and beliefs emit the effects of error at all times. But this atmosphere of mortal mind cannot be destructive to morals and health when it is opposed promptly and persistently by Christian Science. Truth and love antidote this mental miasma and thus invigorate and sustain existence. The disciples apprehended their master better than did others, but they did not comprehend all that he said and did, or they would not have questioned him so often. Jesus patiently persisted in teaching and demonstrating the truth of being. His students saw this power of truth heal the sick, cast out evil, raise the dead. But the ultimate of this wonderful work was not spiritually discerned, even by them, until after the crucifixion, when their immaculate teacher stood before them, the victor over sickness, sin, disease, death, and the grave. The Pharisees claimed to know and to teach the divine will, but they only hindered the success of Jesus' mission. Even many of his students stood in his way. If the master had not taken a student and taught the unseen verities of God, he would not have been crucified. The determination to hold spirit in the grasp of matter is the persecutor of truth and love. Our proportionate admission of the claims of good or of evil determines the harmony of our existence, our health, our longevity, and our Christianity. To have one God and avail yourself of the power of Spirit, you must love God supremely. The flesh lusteth against the Spirit. The flesh and Spirit can no more unite in action than good can coincide with evil. It is not wise to take a halting and halfway position or expect to work equally with spirit and matter, truth and error. There is but one way, namely God and his idea, which leads to spiritual being. The scientific government of the body must be attained through the divine mind. Christian Science destroys material beliefs through the understanding of spirit, and the thoroughness of this work determines health. Erring human mind forces can work only evil under whatever name or pretense they are employed, for spirit and matter, good and evil, light and darkness cannot mingle. Evil is a negation because it is the absence of truth. It is nothing because it is the absence of something. It is unreal because it presupposes the absence of God, the omnipotent and omnipresent. Every mortal must learn that there is neither power nor reality in evil. Prayer, watching, and working, combined with self-immolation, are God's gracious means for accomplishing whatever has been successfully done for the Christianization and health of mankind. Thoughts unspoken are not unknown to the divine mind. Desire is prayer, and no loss can occur from trusting God with our desires, that they may be molded and exalted before they take form in words and in deeds. We must resolve to take up the cross and go forth with honest hearts to work and watch for wisdom, truth, and love. We must pray without ceasing. Such prayer is answered insofar as we put our desires into practice. The Master's injunction is that we pray in secret and let our lives attest our sincerity. Christians rejoice in secret beauty and bounty, hidden from the world, but known to God. Self-forgetfulness, purity, and affection are constant prayers. Practice, not profession, understanding, not belief, gain the ear and right hand of omnipotence, and they assuredly call down infinite blessings. Trustworthiness is the foundation of enlightened faith. Without a fitness for holiness, we cannot receive holiness. Whatever inspires with wisdom, truth, or love, be it song, sermon, or science, blesses the human family with crumbs of comfort from Christ's table, feeding the hungry and giving living waters to the thirsty. We should become more familiar with good than with evil and guard against false beliefs as watchfully as we bar our doors against the approach of thieves and murderers. We should love our enemies and help them on the basis of the Golden Rule, but avoid casting pearls before those who trample them underfoot, thereby robbing both themselves and others. The divine demand, "Be ye therefore perfect," is scientific, and the human footsteps leading to perfection are indispensable. Individuals are consistent, who, watching and praying, can run and not be weary, walk and not faint, who gain good rapidly and hold their position, or attain slowly and yield not to discouragement. God requires perfection, but not until the battle between spirit and flesh is fought and the victory won. Love inspires, illumines, designates, and leads the way. Right motives give pinions to thought, and strength and freedom to speech and action. Wait patiently for divine love to move upon the waters of mortal mind and form the perfect concept. Patience must have her perfect work. A Christian Scientist occupies the place at this period of which Jesus spoke to his disciples when he said, Ye are the salt of the earth. Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on an hill cannot be hid. Let us watch, work, and pray that this salt lose not its saltness, and that this light be not hid, but radiate and glow into noontide glory. And we solemnly promise to watch and pray for that mind to be in us which was also in Christ Jesus, to do unto others as we would have them do unto us, and to be merciful, just, and pure. Let's pray together silently for a few moments, and then pray aloud together the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Let's sing hymn number 290, 290. Press on, ye sons of light, untiring in your holy fight, still treading each temptation down and battling for a higher crown. Number 290. This church is a branch of the Mother Church, the First Church of Christ Scientist in Boston, Massachusetts. We hold Sunday services at 11 a.m. and Wednesday testimony meetings at 7:30 p.m. We also have services in Spanish, Sundays at 12 noon and Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. All services are held in person and online, and all are welcome. Third Church offers Sunday school classes in person and online for children and teens. These free one-hour classes are available each Sunday. At Sunday school, students learn how much God loves them and cares for them. They also learn about the Bible characters and lessons and the healing power of prayer. For more information on times and classes, please send us an email, thirdchurch@thirdchurchnyc.com. 10th Church of Christ Scientists, New York City, invites you to a talk titled The Science of God and Its Power to Heal Us by Nikki O'Hagan, CS, on Tuesday, November 19th at 7 p.m. The talk will take place at 171 McDougal Street, New York, and will be live streamed via Zoom link at 10thchurchnyc.com. Do you know how to pray effectively? Would you like to learn? Third Church of Christ Scientists, New York City, and other Christian Science churches in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut invite you to a series of spiritual roadmaps, weekly Sunday evening inspirational radio talks, which will air continuing through November from 8:03 p.m. to 9 p.m. on WOR 710 AM radio and on WOR.com. The series, titled Spiritual Solutions for Today's Challenges, addresses the following topics. Prayer brings peace. How spiritual perception brings healing. Finding unity and abundance through prayer. And learning to love your enemies. The internationally based speakers are members of the Christian Science Board of Lectureship. The next talk in the series, next Sunday, November 17th, is Finding Unity and Abundance Through Prayer by Nate Frederick, CS. It's sponsored by 8th Church, New York City, and First Church, Montclair, New Jersey. Replays of each talk will be available at 710WOR.com/spiritual solutions through the end of November, and on thirdchurchnyc.com through the end of December. Join us starting Sundays at 8:03 p.m. on WOR 710 AM radio. We promise spiritual enlightenment and uplift. This meeting is now open for all to share experiences of healing and spiritual insights that prove God's ever-presence and power in their lives. If you're listening by telephone and would like to speak, press *6 and wait until your line is unmuted. Please speak directly into the microphone of your phone. Your message will be easier to hear if you don't use the speaker function. If you're watching via Zoom, you can choose the raise your hand icon or unmute yourself and speak.
Last week's lesson sermon was on the topic Adam and fallen man. And I am still thinking about some of the implications and instructions of that topic. It's been said that no great work of literature yields up its secrets with one reading, and this is especially true of revealed religion. And last week it came to me that when handling or when reading the second chapter of Genesis, and I think Christian Science is alone in assigning that as an allegory, as an erroneous concept of creation. We often handle the serpent and Adam and Eve and disobedience and all that kind of thing. But I wondered if I should first handle the mist, because it's within the mist that went up from the earth that we find in almost a ridiculous science fiction kind of scenario, that God taking the dust and forming a man out of that dust, and then at some point opening up his torso and taking a rib and then creating a woman out of that. And it's really so different from the symbolic spiritual creation, the narrative we find in First Genesis. And so as I was thinking about the mist, mystery, mystification, mysticism, all of which are antipodes of scientific, spiritual creation, of Christian Science, divine science. I was led to page 205 in Science and Health to that very familiar citation, befogged in error, and I won't be able to get this entire paragraph absolutely correct, the error of believing that matter can be intelligent for good or evil. We catch clear glimpses of God only as the mist disperses. And the mist disperses and we find the reality and supremacy of good and the nothingness and unreality of evil. I may not have that part correct, absolutely correct. And as we look at the Bible, we see, of course, a golden thread that moves from Second Genesis through to the prophets, and then, of course, to Jesus and his disciples, St. Paul, etc. The mist is illusion, and Mrs. Eddy often says, I started a research project, I didn't get very far, but on illusion. Sin, disease, and death are illusion. And that seems difficult to accept when you're not feeling well, that it's an illusion. It has nothing to do with you. It has no reality. It has no place. It has no purpose. It has no power. It has no law, no creator. It's the illusion of a creation that took place within a heavy mist. And so I'm enjoying working with that citation on page 205 and trying to really understand more clearly that First Genesis it's symbolic, to be sure, symbolic and spiritual, and it is the basis of healing. And Second Genesis is the basis, it gives us what we need to pray against. Thank you for your reading.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and for that previous testimony too. Thank you. And last Friday night, I realized I had voted, in the election, but I had never really listened to any of these candidates in their debates or any of that. So I just voted based on what seemed to me to be the right person to vote for. So I decided I was going to listen to these debates on the internet, YouTube, which I did, and it was very disconcerting. The qualities expressed were far from being anything that's spiritual or kind or loving. And I also decided to snack while I watched, and I really did overindulge considerably. I fell asleep, and a few hours later I woke up in a terrible, terrible condition. And I realized so terrible that I didn't even know if I was going to make it, quite frankly. And I realized that I had taken in all this error. And this was the problem. It wasn't the food or anything, even though that's wrong to overindulge, but it was the error. And I realized that Mrs. Eddy tells us that there's a wonderful article in Rudimental Divine Science. She's, in answering the question, she says, how should I undertake to demonstrate healing the sick in Christian Science? And it's a very good outline, very, not that short, but shorter than other things. And she says, you must feel and know that God alone governs and that his government is harmonious. Well, I had known anything but that. Watching all of this, I'd taken so much in. And I had to realize, well, that's what I'm being called upon to do here. And in that same article, she talks about the allness. The thought must be completely imbued with the allness of God and that he is good alone. All this error. And then she also says health is the consciousness of the unreality of pain and disease, or rather the absolute consciousness of harmony and of nothing else. And I struggled. I wish I could say it was instantaneous. I struggled for 2 or 3 hours, working with all these things I knew in science and health. When the illusion of sickness or sin tempts you, cling steadfastly, like tonight's readings, cling steadfastly to God and his idea. Allow nothing but his likeness to abide in your thought. Let neither fear nor doubt overshadow your clear sense and calm trust that the recognition of life harmonious as life eternally is can destroy any sense of or belief in that which life is not. I wasn't really making progress. And then finally I realized in Footsteps of Truth, she tells us, by its own volition, not a blade of grass springs up, not a spray buds within the veil, not a flower outlines its beautiful outlines, not a flower outlines its beautiful, and not a bud starts from its cloistered cell. And I once asked my teacher, what does that mean? And he said, I don't know, which was surprising to me because I thought he knew everything. And then she says in another place, also it's in practice, she says, tell your patient that he can meet disease fearlessly if he only realizes that God gives him absolute control over every action of the body, something to that effect. And I realized that's what I had to do, that God governed. Yes, God, not by its own volition, not a flower unfolds its fair outlines, not a bud comes from its cloistered cell, that God is governing every part of my body, and it's governing it harmonious. The divine love gives me control over every physical action and condition, and I stayed with it, and that's the healing thought that led me through it and finally dissolved it. It took 2 or 3 hours, but I finally went back to sleep, woke up perfectly healed. I'm just so grateful for this wonderful truth that we have in Christian Science. It meets divine love, always has met, she says, and always will meet every human need. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to thank you for the readings. I love the Nehemiah story. There's so much in there. Um, Especially like the part where he says, I'm doing a great work. Why should I come down? And many times when we're doing a great work, there's always a suggestion to come down and stop doing it, doing something less. And that idea of persistence, and I think it goes along with obedience. And I had recently been studying some of those directives that Mrs. Eddy gives us. I think some of us call them dailies, but there's so many times where she says, I earnestly desire that Christian Scientists daily, and she gives us things to do every day. And one of them was one I hadn't been doing, and that was protecting ourselves from aggressive mental suggestion. I hadn't really thought about that one. And for some reason, I was thinking about it. And at that time, this was maybe a couple weeks ago, a family member who suffers from the belief that he doesn't tend to always think of others. And we were doing something together, and it was urgent that the time be kept so that everybody could get where they needed to be and when they needed to be there. And he seemed to be completely unaware of the need to try to work with others to do this. And as a result, he was on time for what he had to do, but the rest of us were all late. And I was one of those, and I was angry, and I was starting to go down that path that we always go down when we think somebody has dealt unfairly with us, and going over their faults and going over why they do this, and the rabbit hole of self-pity and on and on. And then I just stopped, and I thought, this is just an aggressive mental suggestion that this person could ever act like this, that he could be tempted with this aggressive mental suggestion that he could act like this, that it's all just unreal. I can just stop now. I don't have to go through any of this. And so I worked with that all day, and I have to say I stayed a little bit angry, and kind of avoided this person. But then we were together for dinner, and this is a person who absolutely never acknowledges that he has ever done anything wrong. And out of the blue, and all my life, he's never done this, he acknowledged that he had acted selfishly and it had injured others, and he apologized. And it was the most amazing healing, because I had already stopped seeing that this could ever be true about him. And it has to be that obedience to that direction, to not let that suggestion enter into anything and cause any kind of trouble. And I was already over it before he apologized. That was the best thing. And that was just icing on the cake. And so I've been working with that a lot more lately. Because there's always sand ballots out there. I love that sand ballot name. It makes me think of sandbag. You know, there's always those sandbaggers out there in the guise of suggestion. And I think I heard somebody say one time about error that error comes to you for life, and you give it the only life it has. And so I'm very grateful for your readings, to be reminded about obedience and persistence. very grateful for our leader, Mary Baker Eddy, and for this church. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your readings. That last hymn, Press On, is consistent with persistence. I think of the athletic concept of pressing on in a race, a long-distance race. One enjoys the race, for quite a while, and then towards the end, when the energy is getting a little bit spent out, the time for pressing on and keeping going when you really don't feel like keeping going is one concept of pressing on. And there's a wonderful movie about rowers back in the Olympics, 24, whatever the year was, where that was a perfect team, and they pressed on amazingly beyond what one would normally think of endurance. And in daily life, we have various things that we want to do and have a stack of ideas and cards and objectives for the day, and one would be challenging, and then as soon as that challenge is met, you take the next one and press on and see how many of these objectives one can do. And that's another sense of pressing on. And what's pressing on in metaphysics? I think it's holding to a thought. The earlier testimony was a wonderful example of pressing on. We work with what we know, and we keep working and waiting for those ideas to come, and keeping with it and pressing on. And the basis of pressing on in Christian Science and metaphysics is the idea that God is all in all and is harmonious. And so we press on in our thinking to reject anything that's inconsistent with that harmonious, whatever it would be, and have the expectation. What's at the end of that pressing on? It's being conscious and experiencing and manifesting that harmony of spiritual being, of being the reflection of the first Genesis story, and being at one with the Father, and that's and having dominion and having joy. That's what's at the end of pressing on, and I'm very grateful for Christian Science for helping us toward that end.
Thank you. And thank you all for your testimonies and support and prayers and presence at this meeting. Let's end the meeting with hymn number 82. I'm going to read the whole poem. God is working his purpose out as year succeeds to year. God is working his purpose out, and the time is drawing near. Nearer and nearer draws the time that shall surely be when the earth shall be filled with the glory of God as the waters cover the sea. What can we do to work God's work, to prosper and increase the brotherhood of all mankind, the reign of the Prince of Peace? What can we do to hasten the time that shall surely be when the earth shall be filled with the glory of God as the waters cover the sea? March we forth in the strength of God with the banner of Christ unfurled, that the light of the glorious gospel of truth may shine throughout the world. fight we the fight with sorrow and sin, to set their captives free, that the earth may be filled with the glory of God, as the waters cover the sea. Number 82.